It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And now it's time for my favorite part of the show where we guess, or I guess, what is in Tim's background, the screen background. And I'm going to guess it's got to be Nikki Haley with the low spark of a high heel right in the throat of Vivek Ramaswamy. Am I right about that, Tim?
Whose heels are higher, by the way?
Or DeSantis's or Ramaswamy's or Haley's. It's like everybody's in elevator shoes.
Well,
I once had a boss. I once had a boss who wore elevator shoes, and I was actually in the elevator with him once. I thought that was so meta. But anyway, so what's in your? Was I right? Did I guess that right?
No. The pandas are going back to China.
Ah, yes, yeah. They're sending the whole franchise. That's great.
They're sending them via Panda Express.
Now, I didn't. That's
going to end up in a wet market,
right? And take your COVID with you. That's one of those stories where I just look at like a tweet and, I pretty much do that with all the stories, and I need you to fill in all the background. But what is this a sign that the Cold War is heating up because the pandas are going back, or is this a regularly scheduled departure?
I think it was regularly scheduled. I think they just had them for 30 years or something like that, and they were hoping it would be renewed. But I think the contract, the renewal window came up during Trump.
Oh, okay.
50 years. Oh my gosh. They probably didn't think they'd live 50 years. 50 years, that's longer than the average Chinese person's lifespan was 50 years
certainly
ago.
One of the Uyghur Muslims, that's for sure. But the 50 years, that's a lot of bamboo that we gave them, isn't it? Well, okay. All right. Well, we enjoyed having you, pandas. Normally I don't engage in expletives on Twitter. I try to be somewhat lofty and articulate, but I came up with the succinct FU. It did have the dash in there. It didn't have the letters in there. When I saw the tweet with President Obama's pronouncement on how we were all complicit in what happened in Israel. And I'm pretty much everybody else that I trust on this said the same thing that I did, only in far more words. But I think,
this is his very good people on both sides moment.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Absolutely. It reminded me a little bit of David Fry's impersonation of Nixon when he said, I'll take the responsibility, but not the blame. It was just, and I think it was Obama who once quoted Barney Frank, who I think said, government is simply the name we give the things we choose to do together. So he's just trying to lump us all in together on this. We did it. No, you did it, buddy. You subsidized this whole thing with your cockamamie plan. And you know what? To say it's cockamamie is just accusing him of negligence. I can't help feeling that there's...
You think it's malfeasance?
Well, it's you got to look at it like that Israel is apartheid or the occupiers. You got to buy into that stuff. He's a university guy. What do you think these kids are being fed? I saw a video of Southern University of Southern California, looked like a freshman girl, nice chubby thighs and everything. Like, she looked like she'd just normally be somebody trying to make some sorority. She's ripping down posters of kidnapped kids and laughing about it. So what the hell are they teaching these kids? And it's just...
Well, it's been going on forever. It was
right.
Dinesh D'Souza had that film where he actually said that Obama was anti-colonialist.
Right.
And back then I had no idea how the extent of what they meant by colonialism. I thought he was just still bitter that the British taught Kenyans English. I had no idea how far-reaching this whole anti-colonialist movement goes.
We may have even talked about this a few weeks ago, but the Paul Johnson, the historian, died, and I think we had talked about, he had written about colonialism, and it really got a bad rap. First of all, it wasn't really malicious. It was more disorganized than anything else. But a lot of it was good. I hate to tell you, India got a lot of. I'm not saying the British shouldn't have had a sunset on their empire. Yeah, fine, go ahead. But it's, there's a lot of great Western institutions, and they seem to want to.
Well, my gosh, how would we get medical care here in the United States if the British hadn't set up universities in India?
I mean, exactly. We need those doctors.
Who would help us? Who would help us when our computer crashes? Who would help? Who would help us get our credit card billing straightened out?
Jerry in New Delhi. Yeah. So, and the chutzpah of Obama, because everybody's concerned about the humanitarian crisis and the civilian casualties. Meanwhile, I think one Israeli officer was quoted as saying most of the horrendous crimes were committed by Gaza civilians. Hamas terrorists mostly killed soldiers and moved on. The civilians did most of the lynching, mutilating, slaughtering, beheading, and burning. I mean, so they're all innocent, but look. There's a lot of kids involved too, and they've got to be considered innocent. But as somebody pointed out, I think it was Dan Senior on the commentary podcast. We forget. Obama, remember that thing called ISIS, the JV team called ISIS? When we had to defeat them at Mosul, what we did was we flattened Mosul, and we killed a lot of civilians. There were like 11,000 casualties.
Wow.
The ratio of civilians to soldiers was something like 7-1, which may be higher than the ratio in Gaza now. And I don't remember any protests at the universities about what President Obama himself ordered. I mean, let alone, the 500,000 in Syria, which, he and Ben Rhodes gave the go ahead to. So, I mean, it's so much BS. And it's just, I mean, if the military action causes casualties and all the organizers are in the White House, does it ever happen? Okay, there you go. So, anyway,
I guess they're going to get a 3-hour recess now. Is that what I've heard?
Somebody was saying that that this has already been going on, but now they're just saying it. So yeah, whatever. I mean, whatever the Israelis think is reasonable to do, that's fine. I'm not going to go to Dick Durbin or Hillary Clinton or somebody else for my advice on this. So then there's back here in the States. So there's this elderly Jewish man died. Remember, he got hit falling on the pavement. Well, he, what we need right now is reasonable megaphone control legislation, I think, because he was hit by that. And of course, the way it was characterized. Well, here's the ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Elderly Jewish man dies after confrontation, not killed by this guy, who, by the way, is a college professor. And that's what we're seeing is, a lot of these Hamas people are university trained. They're not the destitute. That's who they are. I think the LA Times had, another passive reference as well to this, Southern California guy who died. I mean, the way it's characterized is ridiculous.
Well, considering it was done with a megaphone, doesn't that fall into the First Amendment somehow?
Oh, sure. It's free speech. Right. No question about it. Easily protected by Times versus Sullivan. So then you got the censure vote for Rashida Tlaib, and thankfully it did pass. I saw one thing. Remember, this happened a few days ago where everybody was getting on the Israelis because they had detonated some ambulance, but apparently Hamas would try to run away in ambulances. They have a history of doing that. It just made me feel like, well, ambulance chasing is finally given a good name. All right, ladies and germs. Okay. I mean, do we talk about Ben Shapiro? So he has this. I actually watched this. and I mean, it lasted 10 minutes. And considering Ben Shapiro speaks at Alvin the Chipmunk speed, so, for normal people, it would have taken 15, 20 minutes to get it out of their mouths. But it was really good about how multiculturalism ain't quite the thing that it's cracked up to be. But what I really liked, and you should watch it, This Is How the West Ends, Facts, episode number 6. It's, I recommend it to you. In the middle of it, he seamlessly goes into a commercial for some kind of device to block your kids from seeing the internet, and it works real well. But I mean, he does it without skipping a beat, and it reminded me of Jackie Gleason stumping for Lucky Strike cigarettes in the middle of a monologue. He's smoking this Lucky Strikes the entire time, and yeah, that's a good cigarette. And the flavor, LSMFT, Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. Okay, now where was it? Sammy Spear, and away we go. So yeah, Ben Shapiro, he's got the political chops, and he's got the comedic timing as well. And, just to close on this, just a great quote from an Arab Bedouin Israeli on the apartheid lie. And this woman said, "If not for Israel, I'd probably be illiterate, penniless, herding sheep. But I have an electrical engineering degree. I have a master's from Stanford University, and I have my rights to live my life the way I wanted to live it." But,
yeah,
hey,
right around to the benefits of colonialism.
And no good deed goes unpunished. I'd like Susan Sarandon to read that one. Anyway. All right. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap.
And reproductive rights were on the ballot in one key state yesterday.
Ohio, the latest state where voters have approved a measure to protect access to abortion, and that's since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Kennedy Hayes, now live in Columbus, Ohio, has some reaction. So a big win for a abortion rights activist.
Troy and Anita, that's right. A big win here last night in Ohio, where Ohio is the 7th state where a majority of voters voted to protect abortion access in just the past year. The latest results show almost 56% of voters in this conservative-leaning state approve the abortion protections known as Issue 1.
Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. So I got to tell you, so they finally come out. The manifesto was leaked. And so I tried to find some stories to see what exactly was in the manifesto. And I had a hard time because you go to your traditional news sources. I don't know if it was like ABC News or, LA Times or something like that. And, I think
ABC just covered the cops that were suspected of it.
Sure,
I don't think ABC even mentioned what was in it. Just
no, right.
How dare they?
No, it took me a long time before I saw a little quote from the Nashville shooter about how she wanted to get the little crackers, who have their white privilege. I finally actually saw a quote in there, but it took me so long to get to that. And, what can I say? If if the shoe had been on the other foot, the way that would have gone. So,
yeah, it would have been out within hours.
Oh, right. Absolutely. So,
I wonder what else is in it, because it's like 30 pages, isn't it?
I had a hard enough time just extracting the one quote. So did
you see the one where you actually had what things to do today? Have breakfast at home, and he drew a little heart around home.
Oh my God, it's so sick. I mean,
load magazines.
Oh man, I mean, just
stop by church. I don't know. Light a candle.
Yeah, I mean, it is nauseating. So here's another story. I saw this tweet about Google searches regarding "Am I gay?" and it said that the Google searches for the question "Am I gay?" have really gone up. They've gone through the roof since like 2004. My immediate question was, Was there even Google in 2004? I try to remember that. But,
I think they celebrated like their 30th or 25th anniversary recently.
Yeah, they've surged 1,300% since 2004. Because I think I was like dimly aware of Google, around 2010. But
I think the reason why they surged is people are starting to buy that Ben Shapiro internet protector. Because before then, when kids wanted to know if they were gay or not, they would do the search on Pornhub.
Oh, exactly. Okay.
You don't go to Google. You just
no, I totally
you flip through the
understand.
pictures till you find something you like.
Right. Speaking of media moguls, so Jeff Bezos is moving from Washington to Florida, of course. Google started in 1998, according to Chris, our producer. And
it's 25 years.
Huh?
25 years. I was right.
Oh, 25 years. Okay. It's all about taxes, because Washington State came up with this tax that they would have generated like half their income on this tax from Bezos himself. And
it's the
and
Bezos
tax.
tax.
No, I'm out of here. And what I love is this guy gets to have it both ways, because he gets to be woke in the Washington Post, which is about as pro Hamas as you can get in so-called reputable media entity in the United States. But when it comes to him, and his personal fortune, I mean, like, he couldn't afford the nut if he had to pay for it. He's going to Florida.
It's a prime opportunity for DeSantis to get some publicity. He could actually pass a similar law that anyone who moves to Florida from Miami, from Seattle, is responsible for the same amount of taxes.
Well, how legislation is written so that it doesn't discriminate against people. Like a lot of legislation in Illinois says municipalities above 500,000 people, because they don't want to spell out Chicago, where we're targeting Chicago. But maybe if they just said bald taxpayers who are trying to look buff, and
bald recently divorced taxpayers who own newspapers.
Came up with a boffo idea about 30, 40 years ago, whatever, and we all take advantage of it. But anyway, I just thought that was funny.
What is the tax? I thought Washington State was one of those states that was considering an exit tax.
Oh,
that they
that'd be something.
Weren't they?
Maybe, I don't know about
perhaps he's decided to get out while the getting was good
before they executed that. Yeah. So
which is what we say every time that somebody suggests such a law. Like when Pritzker suggests it, I mean, that's what they say. Well, that's just gonna, that's billionaires can move quick.
Oh yeah. Oh no, they're as portly as he appears. He's a light on his feet when it comes to the famous toilet that Pritzker had. I mean, he has his ways of dodging taxes. So next on the agenda here, I see that Dean Richards on DoorDash. I think Dean. We've ripped Dean Richards before, but I had some sympathy. He said they're the worst, most condescending customer service after a disgusting issue with a food delivery. I've overlooked bad delivery over and over, but I'm finished with them. Shop anyplace else. I don't know about DoorDash, but we've experienced, and I wonder if you've done this too. It's like 50% of the time, we get a pickup order is wrong. There's at least one thing wrong in a pickup order, and I'm not the kind who is going to go through the bags all the way down to the bag fries and see if they got the order right. But it seems like it happens. You're
really not that kind of a person, Bruce, because I would have guessed you were.
Yeah, I would have guessed I was too. But I know I mean, what's the point of fast food? It's that it's fast and that they get it right. I mean, I may as well be sitting in a restaurant and sending things back. Waiter,
I've done it. I've done it like at McDonald's and that when I'm still at the window. I always look in the bag.
I mean, maybe I'll feel it for the heft to make sure. Well, it doesn't feel like there's 14 quarter pounders in there, but yeah.
But DoorDash, you really don't. You know, it's you get it and he's gone. You know, sometimes sometimes they don't even knock the door. They just leave the bag there on the porch.
Yeah, and I thought that was like a COVID phenomenon at first. Oh, they can't stay by you. They gotta dash.
No, but, it's a millennial problem.
Totally. Yeah, right. They don't want to. I mean, you're lucky they even brought it. But
then they come back and they come back and knock on the door. It's like, hey, you forgot the tip.
Right. So did you see this story? I just heard about this guy yesterday. This Mr. Beast. Okay. Do you know about this?
I just heard about it today.
Okay. So
but I know all about it.
He's what my late Aunt Sandy, in one of my favorite malapropisms of all time, would call the Good Samaritan. Okay, because because we're good people and we try to do good deeds. So we were talking about Barack Obama a little bit earlier in Kenya. He was trying to provide clean drinking water for like 500,000 people in Kenya by digging wells and he filmed it. And of course, he's being blamed now because he did some government shaming there.
Yeah.
And the Kenyan government this helped perpetuate the stereotype that Africa is dependent on handouts. Well, it is. I mean, it's pardon my Sam Kinison, but it reminds me of the Kinison thing. Give him a sandwich. You know, this guy actually acted on it. And
well, they got down on capitalism. They say that he's doing it just to make money. But isn't that the beauty of capitalism?
Yeah,
it's like, look, the guy became he became famous on the internet, not by taking off his clothes, not by starting an OnlyFans page. He became famous on the internet by helping people.
Yeah, but it's no good if you make a little profit for yourself. I mean, that's bad. Well, I mean, really, what is the common thread? I mean, to Hamas, to the socialists, all this, it's not the substantive amount that you have. It's whether somebody has more than you have. It's envy. Always go back to the seven deadly sins. It's you can't beat them. And I mean, and that's what it
pride is one of the deadly sins.
Well, I mean,
we used to call that June. You thought the sin was sodomy. No, it's bragging about it for a month.
It's not good to have things. It's only good to have more than somebody else. And you can't stand it. And nobody wants largesse. Nobody wants, nobody wants a helping hand. It doesn't work.
What they don't realize when they talk about the vast disparity between the rich and the poor, they're not looking at the disparity between our poor and the poor in the rest of the world,
or in the history of the world.
Yeah,
I mean, our poor have it better than Louis XVI. Have you ever been to one of those castles in France?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like we went on a trip once, and my best friend wanted to go to all these castles. I mean, you've seen one, you've seen them all, and they're cavernous. And all I can imagine is, all these queens in there who had half their teeth missing, and catching the death of cold because of their death of cold because of all the drafts in the place. I mean,
not to mention for all that opulence, you still had to crap in a bucket like a Turkish prison.
Well, they never show that on those. All those everybody in Game of Thrones had a great set of teeth. I mean, it just nobody smelled. Please. All right. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Fox News confirming images of the Covenant School Shooters Manifesto that were leaked to the public are in fact authentic.
The 3 leaked pages showed the shooter, who murdered 3 children and 3 adults in Nashville in March, expressing rage at white privileged kids, writing in part, quote, "Want to kill all you little crackers, bunch of little blanks with your white privileges. Can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm ready. I hope my victims aren't. I hope I have a high death count."
Now, the national media largely ignoring the story with 0 minutes of coverage in morning shows on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, and NBC.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. And I mean, Tim, tell me how a state that went for Trump, it's gonna go for Trump, passes the most liberal abortion amendment in these United States of America.
Well, it's I've been saying it since Tuesday. Is that young people put inconsequential sex and pot above good governing. I mean, that's basically what it is, right? I mean, people say, well, it's it's women, young women that want to legalize abortion. No, it's young men.
Oh, sure.
It's it's abortion is a one-off compared to child support.
Oh yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. No, but anyway, so as for the politics itself, did you watch the debate at all?
I did not. I figured if anything fun had happened, I'd see clips, and I did.
That's what I did. I mean, I'm strictly, a meta guy. I have to be like twice removed from this stuff. And I saw the clips, and of course, if you see the clips,
it's like sitting through Saturday Night Live waiting for the funny to happen.
By the way, did you see? You're the stand-up comedian. And do you distinguish between comic and comedian? Because I know Milton Berle did.
No, I use
Milton
both.
Berle. Oh my God, he was so lofty. It was so hysterical. He said to Mike Douglas, "A comic says funny things. A comedian says things funny," and it was so ponderous.
No. I agree with that.
Okay.
No. I mean, there's a difference between a comic.
There's
a difference between what he's describing.
I get it, but it just sounded so philosophical. And just tell us a joke, Uncle Milty. Yeah, if you had said it in drag, I could understand it. Okay.
I consider myself an artist, Bruce. So yes, it is an art in what he's saying. I don't stick by those definitions. But I understand them.
All right,
I understand what he's saying.
I did not tickle your funny bone with that one. I touched a nerve. What was funny was on SCTV years later, and I know they had watched the same thing on Mike Douglas that I had, and the recognition was unbelievable. Eugene Levy playing Sammy Maudlin or whatever it was. They were talking about him becoming a filmmaker, and he says, "There's a difference between a filmmaker and a movie maker." And I knew that it was just this girl thing. But anyway, okay. So where were we when I digressed?
Well, I think there is a difference between a filmmaker and a movie maker too.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, a movie maker, it does Fast and Furious. A filmmaker does those things that win awards that nobody watches.
Yeah, it's Marty Scorsese, The Flowers that Bloom, or whatever his latest thing was.
Did you hear about that? That the editor is complaining that some theaters are putting in an intermission.
Yes, I did hear about the intermission. I didn't know it was should movie theaters put in intermissions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Titanic just proved that.
Speaking of Titanic, I've told you, but it bears repeating because this is a thing said funny right now, I believe anyway. But I told you that, when we saw Titanic in the movie theater, there was, it's like 3.5 hours and everybody's got the gigantic, 84-ounce drinks that they,
because that's the bargain. That's the bargain.
Right. And, and so the movie finally ends after 3.5 hours and everybody is streaming for the bathrooms. And I yell out, "Women and children first." So I thought that was good. And by the way, you know who I told that joke to? On the radio. I was on with Brandmeier in the late 90s. He had like the granddaughter of the last survivor of the Titanic or something on.
Wow.
And it was this kind of serious interview with her and everything. And I said, "Oh, you got to hear this." I told him the story. Oh, that's fantastic. It's a fantastic story. So anyway, as far as the election goes, so I see the clips. And if you just go by the clips, like with Nikki Haley's calling Vivek a scum, got some reliable sources who say it was actually a pretty educational debate. They talked for a couple of hours about serious issues, foreign policy, how much intervention there should be. So, you come away with the clips, you don't really get a sense that, they were pretty gosh darn serious about this.
But what's it matter, really?
Well, no, right. That's the problem.
It's
the
kind
problem
of
because all that matters is who's heels. Now, I did have a little historical perspective, because when Nikki Haley says, hey, don't talk about my daughter. Do you remember Bernie Shaw of CNN? And he asked Mike Dukakis, not wearing a pith helmet at the time. This is a debate. He asked Dukakis, well, you're against the death penalty, but what if your wife, Kitty Dukakis, were raped and murdered? Would you be in favor of it? And, and Dukakis, in his antiseptic, technocratic way in which he, would have governed, just very blandly answered the question instead of going over and socking Bernie Shaw in the mouth.
Yeah.
But
Kitty Dukakis, watching at home, opens a bottle of Final Net and throws away the cap.
I mean, so apparently you're not supposed to bring the family into any of these things, but apparently, it was a halfway decent debate, and it was kind of interesting. Apparently, Tim Scott schooled Lester Holt on how energy prices work, because Lester thought there was a lag, and he didn't realize it's a futures market, whatever. And it was kind of neat that he did that. I mean, come on. Lester Holt, he's a news anchor. If you remember, he was duped by that Potemkin ski resort that the North Koreans came up when he visited there. Okay. They pulled down the set after he left.
It's Vivek Ramaswamy. He just nailed Lester with the just put it all out there, saying you covered, you ran with a Hillary dossier for how long? You covered up the Hunter's laptop, and the no doubt in my mind you're going to try to rig the upcoming 2024 election. And he's like, "Oh, okay, next question."
Yeah, I as much as I find him to be a little cretin, I did enjoy that part. So, okay. This takes a little bit of a setup here, but Mike Johnson, new vice speaker of the House, apparently he had a malapropism, or he said politics. I'll never put people over politics. Okay, he made a mistake saying that. So JB Pritzker tweets, and they say politics isn't an honest business. And I'm thinking, okay, there's stuff that I don't like about Mike Johnson, but if it's true that he lives paycheck to paycheck, apparently does, it's tough hearing him criticized by a guy who's on a lifelong IV drip of chocolate milkshakes. So, JB, come on. Speaking of which, is it one of his hotels, a Pritzker hotel, as Chris, our producer, says, that they're going to be housing migrants in Chicago? It's actually near. It's near Michigan Avenue. I don't think it's a Pritzker hotel, but no. But it's actually near the Magnificent Mile, and Ditka's restaurant was in it a few years ago. Yes, of course it isn't, says Chris. It's not a Pritzker.
What's the hotel?
It's called Selena is the name of the restaurant on there or something. But it's not that far from now. I was suggesting, there's so much landscape, all over the place. Have you ever been up to Gilson Park in Wilmette? Beautiful expanse near the Baha'i Temple. Have you ever been to the Baha'i Temple? You ever seen it?
No.
It's like my father-in-law called it the world's largest orange juice squeezer. I mean, it's just very, it's.
I think I have, now that you mention it. Yeah,
beautiful area, great place to picnic, lots of acreage. Now, as somebody follows me on Twitter said, well, the migrants wouldn't be able to afford the parking passes up there, but if you waived that, why not put them there? There's so many places, where the virtue signalers could welcome, all these people in instead of throwing them in police stations or wherever they are in Chicago. I just don't understand that.
I'll bet if Pritzker wasn't in office, I'll bet that he would sign up for one of those migrant contracts. because they got to be lucrative, right?
Oh yeah. No, well, he's got so much money. I mean, does he care? So, my former partner Dan Proft had a tweet about this vote over this Invest in Kids scholarship thing, where low income minority kids scholarship program. Of course, the Chicago Teachers Union is against it. they don't want to help them out. So there was supposed to be this big vote in the legislature, and I think the guy who leads the legislature pulled a fire alarm or something, or maybe I'm excused, whatever. But what's interesting is that the trade unions are actually in favor of this tax credit scholarship, because a lot of these kids then wind up getting trade union jobs. It's a great entree to that. It's great preparation. So we actually have a fight between the teachers union and the trade unions, and I got to say that's got to be better than Bears and Carolina Panthers. But
well, the trade unions tend to support
right.
Republicans, though, right? So yeah, I mean, there's no. Do they still have shop class? Is that still a
Did
thing?
You have shop class when you were
at it? Well, it was offered. I took.
We had to take it, mandatory, seventh grade, and we had to make a pig from a cutting board, and I was so bad at it that the shop teacher actually had to, and you'd use like a hacksaw or a manual saw.
Sure.
He had to take my pig, which was mangled, and had to fix it up, dress it up, like the funeral director in The Godfather, and
what
and
school?
put it on the bandsaw.
What school was this?
This was in Skokie. Yeah, we had to take it.
You're making pig cutting boards in Skokie?
Tell me about it. They were such anti-Semitic bastards in District 73.5. My mother still has that pig. Bruce Wolf from Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Williams jumping up and laying in the arms of family there. Tough night. Battle. Sure did. He knows the reality of what a third loss means. That's as brilliant as this 2 years will be in LA. It's not going to result in a Pac-12 championship. Yeah. Played well, led his team, did all he could. Just came up a bit short. It's part of the game.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. I got to tell you, I love seeing this guy. This guy could be a quarterback of the Chicago Bears next year, and he's crying to his mother, hiding himself. And you know what it reminded me, Tim? It reminded me of how much I miss seeing Miss America being crowned. Because I mean, those heartfelt moments. Oh gosh.
There's no crying. There's no crying in football.
Oh, come on! I can't wait for Caleb to be crying on the Chicago Bears. He won't be booed out of town too fast.
He's gonna suffer dehydration. If he's
poor guy.
Imagine
poor guy.
You think he's crying for there? Imagine all the losses he'll have to cry through.
I don't think he'll be able to handle it. He'll be run out of town so fast. So we got to bring this up. And this development occurred on the day that we are taping this, but I knew Chris would be ecstatic over this. The White Sox not public address announcer, play-by-play announcer for TV, Jason Benetti, whom I think was absolutely fantastic, is leaving to go to the Detroit Tigers, your team, probably.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's
he apparently some kind of contract dispute. They didn't like that he was doing other things. I mean, he was very popular. He's leaving. A lot of people think he is a terrific announcer and has a great sense of humor. Are we still here? Yes, we are. Okay. And I would think that Chris, our producer, who wants to do this show, I didn't draft him in. He wanted to do this show. So I know he kind of likes my act. And if I like Jason Benetti's act, doesn't by the transitive property of humor, doesn't that work that he would, but he despises Jason Benetti. So we wanted to let Chris have his say here and get to say good riddance to Jason Benetti. Why are you happy
Bruce, Bruce.
Yeah.
You know, with the war breaking out in Israel, you kind of question, is there a God? Something like this happens.
I mean, you know, it's a 9-inning game. Now, granted, I watched sparingly, which is one reason I kind of like Hawk Harrelson, because I didn't mind him referring to Carl Yastrzemski every broadcast, because I only watched 2 or 3 a year. And I just thought Benetti, was very knowledgeable. Cultural references, it was kind of scary. The guy's only 40. Tim, he knew the culture, all our cultural references.
Dan Proft wouldn't like him because his references were so old.
Right. Dan Proft wouldn't like him because they're our references. And, I'm thinking, and I'm wondering if this is true, because the guy was born, with cerebral palsy. I'm wondering if he didn't get around very much as a kid. I mean, I have no idea. I'm just guessing this, and maybe I'm wrong. And he sat around and watched a lot of TV reruns. And he's a real smart guy. So, I mean, he absorbed, it's all our stuff. He would have gotten every single cultural reference we've made so far. And he would make those. And he knew everything that was going on now, of course. Funny baseball. There's so many gaps in a baseball game. I thought it was good. Chris, I mean, could you at least, I love the insults and everything, but could you at least specify why? I know sometimes it's difficult to articulate that. Why was he Drek to you? I mean, what was the problem?
Well, I thought he was. I didn't think any of those jokes were funny, and everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see Reinsdorf, sell the team and whatnot. And the statement, there was a statement, but it was a leak today that said the reason that Benetti went is because Reinsdorf couldn't stand him and didn't think he was funny. So now Reinsdorf is gold to me again. Keep the team, Harry. I'm going to ride with you to the end.
Here's the thing about Reinsdorf. I mean, I thought maybe the cultural references, even though they were like for us, Tim, we only go back to like around 1960-ish, a little before that. Reinsdorf's the 40s and the 50s. So maybe if Jason Benetti had made more Kim Novak references, but yeah, okay.
Reinsdorf like hearing Hawk talk about Ted Williams for the 4,000th
time. All right. So on to more important things. Tim, you wanted to talk about this. I thought it was interesting. The Simpsons have decided they won't show Homer strangling Bart anymore. Now, apparently they haven't done it for years, but they've made an edict that they won't do that. I haven't watched the show in years. This got your dander up.
Yeah, I am so old that I remember when The Simpsons was funny.
Right.
It just every little, the first couple seasons, there was nothing funnier on television. And then it just every little, nick here and nick there.
Right.
We've decided that Apu is insulting to, they got rid of that character. And
I don't think they care anymore, because I saw a commercial for this past Sunday, and they said that Treehouse of Horrors or Horror was going to be on this past Sunday. I mean, they're putting it on after Halloween. They don't even care. It wasn't even timely. I guess they're oblivious.
Well, maybe they had to take out all the strangling scenes first.
Oh, okay.
They had to re-edit it.
All right.
It's what it reminds me a lot of. There actually was one episode where they got down on the Itchy and Scratchy cartoons that Chris is playing right now, and cleaned those up.
Oh.
And I remember Bart and Lisa watching the new Itchy and Scratchy educational cartoons. It's like this isn't funny.
Chris tells me the reason that Treehouse of Horror came on last week was because the week before the World Series was on. Oh my goodness. The Simpsons has gotten so low that it was preempted by the Texas Rangers in the World Series. I'm so slow. We shouldn't waste any more of our precious podcast time talking about that. Let's turn to Disney, of course. The big story that Disney employees have leaked kind of being an operative word, that Disney guests poop in line. Of course, my line from that was, it's a small world after all. I've got other people have contributed. Bippity Boppity Poo, and one of my daughters said maybe that's why they got rid of Splash Mountain. Tim, your view of
I think I think that might have just happened in line for Pooh's Honey Hunt.
No, there you go. So, yeah, I mean,
that kind of ties in with that guy that on that flight recently. Do you remember that, where that guy had diarrhea on the flight and didn't make it all the way back, and actually you missed this story? Was it not on Twitter?
I'm surprised because I'm really always put in the keywords in Google diarrhea American Airlines.
Basically, I think it was United. He actually he had an urgency and didn't make it, and all down the aisle. He just he let it go all the way down the aisle.
Oh, and see, I would have dragged him. I would have sent in the police from at O'Hare, dragged him down the aisle, and then of course he gets lifetime membership in the Red Carpet Burn Club. But seriously,
really, no, I feel sorry for him rather than the people on the flight. It's like,
yeah,
we're all just one bad spinach roll away from.
On a flight, what can you do on a flight?
Yeah.
I mean, that's horrible that he had to deal with, but it's still funny.
That's essentially what happens in Disney. You're waiting 4 hours to get on a ride. You're not going to, and you're 1 hour away from the ride. You're not gonna give up your place. You can't really. They don't really say, can I use the washroom and come right back here? They don't let you do that.
We used to have, because we went a number of times. One of the gambits was, of course, the person in the wheelchair, which would get us ahead. And she actually did need the wheelchair, but I thought we kind of abused the privilege a little bit. Plus, I hate all the rides. I mean, I can't stand any of the rides. I can't stand sudden movement. Do you like rides?
Well, yeah, I used to, but it seems like all the stuff inside me just isn't attached anymore.
Right.
And it just it doesn't. They're not as much fun as they'd say. They're more torture than thrill.
Plus, I mean, look what they did. They did the same thing to Disney that they did to The Simpsons. I mean, there's no wench chasing in the Pirates of the Caribbean, right? So and there's what are you going to do about it? What it was? Anything you want to go to? You want to plug something? I got other.
Oh yeah, I've got a album out. Bachelorette Party. It's available wherever you get your music. It's on Apple Music. It's on Amazon Music. It's on Spotify. Bachelorette Party. It's a funny hour of my material. So
yeah. Do you do the Halloween candy tax thing in there?
No, that's in my first CD. Europa.
CD.
That's that was actually a CD. This one's just available online.
Okay.
There's no physical.
I wanted to ask you. I was about to ask you before. You didn't see. Speaking of clips, you didn't see this guy. I think he's a Nashville comedian. His name is Nagarette or something. He was hosting Saturday Night Live this past week, and he did like 10 minutes that I think you would think was pretty funny. I mean, and I hate to try and reproduce it, but I mean, one of the things was he was just saying that, I mean, he can't read books, which I could relate to. And he was just talking about how, it's just words. It's just what, and there's more words and there's more words. And he was 44 years old, this guy. And then he goes, I mean, can't they just break it up with like a blank page or something? So, I mean, I mean, you know how tough it is to do 10 solid minutes. So I thought, but you never heard of him, right?
Yeah, I don't watch Saturday Night Live.
I mean, but you ever hear of him?
Or the debates? No, I never heard of him before this. I heard that he got the gig. And I think I might even be friends with him on Facebook for all I know.
Oh, okay. Well, how about a review of Nate Bargatze or whatever? Yeah, how about maybe you could review him next week or something? Okay.
Yeah,
hey, this was what do we really
won't be newsworthy by then. But
no, that's true. What a way to end the show. I mean, can I just say, hey, we've got our musical guests today, our Foo Fighters. Stay tuned. Okay. Saturday Night Live. Thanks so much, Tim. Another edition of the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.